So, Outer Banks Season 4 Part 2 premiered last week, and here are my thoughts. Part 1 left us with a bombshell cliffhanger. We find out that Luke is not JJ's dad and that Larissa Jenrette and Chandler Groff are his real parents. I think the creators went this way because otherwise Chandler Groff would kind of be irrelevant once Wes Jenrette passed away earlier in the season. Skip forward at the town council episode, JJ has a full-on meltdown, and I thought this scene was super cool. It's shot in one continuous long shot, this huge action sequence where he gets put in a cop car and then dragged out the back of the cop car, and then he has to run. And then he goes downtown Kildare and just completely destroys this place, basically starts a full-on Pogue riot after they get the land taken away. I think that was a good move because you can't have the Pogues on top for too long in this series, otherwise it gets pretty complacent. So I think this was a good storyline to go through for this season. Also, in the riots, Pope completely derails his whole entire life. The cop is going to shoot JJ, and that cop's been like super trigger friendly the whole entire season so far. And Pope tackles the cops, gets himself arrested. He ends up in court. It's a whole mess, but JJ escapes, and we're glad for that because that plays on the whole rest of the season, obviously. And then obviously the next morning after the riots, JJ's on the run. Nobody can find him. John B., Sarah, and Key are downtown, and then you see Sarah walking to the pharmacy. And I think we all saw this coming by her looking at the Mother Mary in the catacombs at the church and looking at that girl on the way into the courthouse. But we find out Sarah takes a pregnancy test, and we find out that she is pregnant, and Key is there to find out almost immediately. They do keep it from John B., which I think was a smart decision. You know, why telling John B. right there, given the situation that they're in, they're broke, homeless, and they're only 19 years old. Especially with Topper outside, that would have caused a whole conundrum. I don't know what's going to happen in season 5 when Topper finds all this information out, but it definitely isn't going to be good. So after the riots, JJ goes to Groff to see, if he actually is his son or not. And then they get kidnapped almost immediately by the mercenaries. They do go on a little bit of a run where Groff finally admits that he is his father. I know you had to have kind of them hook up a little bit because otherwise you can't just have them drag this on. You had to have an admittance of guilt on that end of things. After JJ and Groff get kidnapped, I found it absolutely hilarious when John B goes to throw the Molotov cocktail and it just lands right on top of the boat. I laughed out loud at that, and it's just a funny comedic relief moment in that time. You gotta remember they are teenagers and they mess up all the time. It's probably the worst throw in TV history, which I just thought was a funny ad. And then the guy sets on fire when he finally does slingshot the one over, and he just was shocked that a guy was set on fire. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. The day for night shots didn't bother me as much as I see other people getting bothered by them. They got to do what they got to do. We had a writer's strike. Otherwise, we'd be waiting probably another 3 months for the show to come out, and we're not going 2 years without a season of OBX. Let's be real here. After JJ and Groff get rescued by John B., Sarah, and Key, and Groff returns to Pokelandia with them, or he shows up there or whatever, I just find it so weird that the Pokes trusted him so much. Maybe because he was JJ's dad, but he was just a sketchy character from the beginning. They should have been weary of him from the start, but who knows what they were thinking in their own minds. And then the next morning we see John and Sarah. They go get married at Town Hall, which I think will play a bigger part next season. And so they leave Key and JJ behind, and then Key stays back to manage the store, and JJ goes with Groff to his mother's grave to receive the amulet or whatever, the crystal that can read the map. And then Pope's on lockdown because he's got to possibly join the Marines in order to not go to jail or get the court fines or whatever it is. And Cleo's all in disarray because she can't see Pope and she's trying to see him. It's a whole mess. She runs into John B and Sarah on the way to the courthouse, and the kooks push Sarah to the ground, and John B at this point knows Sarah's pregnant, and he's completely shocked. And you can tell his anger's about to boil over, but it's, they're highly outnumbered. And then Cleo stabs the tire, they get chased. That was a classic OBX scene where Pogue's getting chased by kooks for messing around with them, whatever. I actually really like that scene. When they skip to Pope in his interview with the Marines, ready to sign up, he's there with his dad and his uncle, and then he leaves the signee when he says, "I'm going to the bathroom." That reminded me so much of season 1 when he ditches his scholarship meeting. It was a real good flashback. I love that scene. Kind of flashback to season 1. I thought that was really cool. One character who I was surprised was killed off so quickly was Hollis. She was just kind of like a dirty dog in the middle of all this real estate dealings. She wanted Rafe to get screwed over, and that she thought Chandler Groff was on her side, but Chandler Groff's pure evil, and he ended up shooting her to steal Rafe's $500,000. And so Rafe was a good tie-in there, actually. I like, otherwise, what is Rafe doing with them other than for no other good reason other than to get back at Groff. So it had to tie that Rafe in, and Rafe's going to be pretty important in season 5, in my personal opinion. Somehow JJ didn't hear the gunshot at Hollis, whatever was going on at the time, and Groff is just bringing JJ around the whole city. They go to his mother's grave, and at his mother's grave, JJ opens up, and he knows that she's supposedly drowned, but he sees the big gash on her forehead. JJ should have dropped him right there. For some reason, JJ just stuck with him the whole time, even after almost getting abandoned there by Groff, and then Groff even ended up coming to get him. And then they go on the boat out in the ocean, and they get into a big fight after JJ realized, Key did definitely not give Groff the scroll willingly. So he already knows something's up. I think earlier past season, JJ would have definitely picked up on that. Key got locked in the freezer back at Pogelandia. Thank God John B. and Sarah came back to find her. And then they were, I'm glad they have previously done Find My iPhone type stuff. Otherwise, it would have been really weird to do in this season. But they've historically done that in this show. Topper's been tracking Sarah. They've been tracking their friends. So JJ gets pushed off the boat with Groff, and he injures himself in the anchor pretty badly. So they're able to locate him. They save him out of the water, which was glad it happened. I wouldn't have wanted him to die that way for sure. And by this point in the season, the Popes are in huge shit. Like, Pope had to cut off a tracking device off his ankle. JJ's on the run for possible murders. They're hiding out at their campsite, and all they need to do is get a big boat and get across the ocean to get to Morocco. And obviously, the police catch up to them. Shoop kind of knows about their campsite out there on that kind of lonely island patch, and they steal the police boat. They're going through town again. That same trigger-happy cop shoots at their boat, and I'm glad to see Kira's dad, Mike, save the day when he pushes the cop out of the way, because he knows JJ is not a bad kid. He just knows he's probably a bad influence for his own daughter, and he's just looking out for Key's own good. And then eventually, the Pogues get stranded on an island again, in this time Kildare. And Shoop comes and goes, all right, everyone stop, you're all in deep shit. And then Rafe shows up behind him, and I thought at this point Shoop was going to be a goner. I thought Rafe was for sure just going to kill him right there, and that would have been totally shocking to me. But he just explains to Shoop, look, I'll tell you everything that happened in the last few years if you let us go, and we'll go get Groff. And I know Rafe's probably hoping Shoop will forget about that. And then I love how they tie in Barry. Obviously, Barry's been key to all 3 seasons. We at least got like a couple minutes of him and Rafe do kind of a boat switch. And then they finally got off Kildare and on the way to Morocco, where they run into an enormous storm. The only beef I got with the storm, I know people have been criticizing Sarah falling off the boat and JJ getting into them and them surviving the huge storm. I wish they would have gone the route that it was just more of a struggle to get back on the boat with a buoy and John B steering the boat to pick them up, and then kind of a reconciliation with JJ and Key and everyone who was kind of mad at him at the time. JJ was kind of going off the rails at that. He was basically a drunk bastard the whole ride over. That's the only thing I really wish would have switched, because it's kind of a classic OBX unrealistic event, but I ate it up and I liked it anyway. I'm going to like anything these creators put out, honestly. But that was the one thing I wish they could have changed that scene a little bit, because I knew it was going to get criticism the second I saw it. But the Pogues finally get to Morocco at this point. They're washed up on the shore. They're missing JJ and Sarah for like a half day or whatever, and then they show up on shore, which I'm glad to see. We didn't see JJ and Key really get a reunion there, but John B and Sarah did. And John B, I think, hugged JJ there too for saving Sarah and the baby, which JJ knew about at that point. Then the Pogues all have a conversation, and JJ asks, that's a pretty good name for a baby. And everyone looks, wait, you're going to be a baby or have a dad? And then Rafe just kind of does one of these. One of these like small realizations, like the guy didn't even care. Finally get into town. Sarah's having all sorts of problems because she's dehydrated, she's pregnant, whatever. Rafe's got all this money, didn't even help his own sister buy an apple. This guy had like $10K in his coin purse. But he's just honestly back for his money to go after Groff. He doesn't care about the treasure at this point, supposedly. And then he teams up with Groff, and then he pushes Groff down the well, and he goes, ha ha, bitch, down the well, which really reminded me of Jesse Pinkman from Breaking Bad. I found that scene hilarious, and I've seen that all over TikTok as people thinking that's a really funny line or just a pretty good scene in general. And then when the Pogues run into Groff in that same well, did I think they were going to pull him out? I thought maybe, because typically the Pogues will save people, but this time it's just too far, because JJ's already been attempted Groff has already attempted to kill JJ at this point, so they just leave him. And then when they get to the city, I do like, the whole map thing and all that going on. The mercenaries are there, and they're there, and Rafe's there, and Sarah even shoots a gun. And then I really love the scene where JJ is climbing up in the sandstorm. The sandstorm was done super well. I love JJ climbing up on top. He grabs the eye, he grabs and reaches in the crown, and my favorite music in all of Outer Banks plays. It's kind of that guitar theme from when John B meets Sarah at the Hawk's Nest in season 1. And JJ is so happy. I was so happy for him. I think the sandstorm going on was a perfect idea for this episode because you had to clear the bad guys not being able to see the Pogues running around and everything. So I just thought that was a good idea on the creator end. And as we move into the final scenes, you see John B and Sarah in the house, and I see a little wooden crib as they're kind of looking forward to their future. They don't know what's going on outside the sandstorm because everyone's kind of hunkered down now. Pope is the first Pogue, I believe, to kill someone with a gun, which I was totally shocked at, but he was just defending Cleo after she got shot through the arm. I just noticed his fans say, why is Cleo still shot? And fine, she got grazed, she didn't get a puncture into her arm, the bullet's not still in there. And then obviously JJ and Key have the crown, they're hidden, and then they run into Groff. Groff holds Key at knife point. JJ exchanges the crown for Key's life, which is a sweet scene to see. And then all of a sudden, JJ turns around to Groff, tells him he got his one wish, which is Key. He's got everything he needs. And then Groff says, you should have handed me the rope. And then he stabs JJ in his previous wound. A lot of people have been leaving that out. JJ didn't die from just getting stabbed one time. It was a previous really bad wound, and Groff stabbed into there and twisted the knife, and JJ's gonna bleed out right there. I'm very sad to see JJ go at the end of this season. I really loved him as a character. I've said, though, if a character was going to die in the show, it would be JJ. They'd never kill off John B or Sarah totally. But I thought it would be JJ. The creators said they had a plan from season 2 or 3. I know there's been some sketchy stuff going on the internet saying the cast is all mad at each other. But I'm 50-50 on all that. I'm not going to speculate. But I think that that was a good way to send out JJ. It could have been drawn out a little longer. I wish he would have been alive. The Pogues try to get him to safety, and then he dies, in the car on the way to the hospital or something like that. And obviously that's not the way it played out, but I'm going to miss JJ as a character. Obviously we got the John B monologue, which was super awesome. I think we're going to get an epic John B monologue next season because, everything's got to get wrapped up. I don't know what they're going to do about JJ's body. I hate that they had to leave him there in Morocco. I mean, even Ward Cameron got his ashes spread back in the OBX, and that's definitely what JJ deserves. Somehow they got to work it in. I don't care how unrealistic it is. They definitely have to work that piece into the back half of season 5. And in our final scene, we see the Pogues gathered around a fire talking about what would JJ do if this was one of us. And we see Key says she wants to get revenge. We know Rafe wants to get revenge on Groff at this point. So I'm thinking season 5 is going to be pretty intense. It's going to be a revenge season. I really hope they focus maybe the first 3 or 4 episodes on getting revenge, getting treasure, and heading back to the OBX. And I want the last 6 episodes of season 5 to just be focused on wrapping these stories up. We have a half a dozen stories to wrap up here. This is not going to take half hour of episode 10, season 5. We're going to need a number of episodes to see where the Pogues are, and you can't leave us hanging of where the Pogues go on to in their future. We want to know 20 years from now, the Pogues ended up doing this, because we may never get these back. We never know if in 15 years is Netflix going to do reboot season 6 for their shows. We don't know that yet. Netflix originals have only been down for 10 years. But anyways, I thoroughly enjoyed season 4. I put it third best of all 4 seasons. Obviously number 1 and 2 are the top 2, then 4, then 3. That's my personal opinion. I thoroughly enjoyed this season. I've watched it twice already because I wanted to watch it once and then watch it again and pay attention to more details and give this fine review. If you don't mind hitting the like button, hitting the subscribe button, leaving a comment, I really appreciate that. I'll have more reviews in the future. I'll definitely have more insides of Outer Banks details because I love going back and seeing all the details of all these shows. But for now, peace out. Have a good one. Remember to subscribe. Peace.